What's going on, everybody? Matt Malatesta, Jackson DiPasquale. We're here in the VYPE podcast room. Bradley Collier, executive producer, along with executive producer, co-executive producer, Alex Henson. Okay, so hey, let's talk Dallas. All right, so what are the hottest things that happened last week?
Yeah, I think I look at this game between Lancaster and North Crowley. This is a big game. Lancaster is now in that district with DeSoto and Duncanville. It's a tough district to play in. They played North Crowley, who was in a state semifinal game against Duncanville last year. This is a close game. They played it at the Star. North Crowley came out with a win, 29-21, but it really shows how good that Lancaster team is and what they can do potentially in that district, competing in that district. But as we saw this past weekend as well, DeSoto was still DeSoto dominant win over a team from Georgia, Creekside. I believe they won 70. They won 70-0 against that team. Blowout game, first game of the year. So I look at those two games to see, DeSoto's still DeSoto, and then you look at this North Crowley team starting off their season with a big win, could lead to more wins and also help prepare them for a deep playoff run again.
Well, I was just looking at some national rankings. You have DeSoto and Duncanville in the top 3 in the country. North Shore is also in there. North Shore beat South Oak Cliff. Not a huge surprise, really. South Oak Cliff, of course, coming in from Dallas. I thought that was interesting, just how lopsided that game was. I thought that was pretty cool. How about the private school shocker, my dog? What happened?
Yeah, All Saints took down Parish Episcopal. Parish Episcopal has been the TAPS D1 state champ, I believe, maybe the past 5 years, 6 years in a row almost. That's a big win for this All Saints program. This is a team in Parish Episcopal who has played the South Oak Cliffs of the world and the China Springs and Aledo the past couple of years in the non-district schedule. Now they play All Saints, which is a team who's in that TAPS division, and they take a tough loss. That's a tough loss at the beginning of the year, but it really says a lot about this All Saints team. Really looking forward to see what they do going forward after this big win. This could be a win that carries momentum on the rest of the season and helps them reach a state championship.
Well, okay, pivot quickly. Volleyball. Here we go. The volleyball segment brought to you by Volleyball. All right, Byron Nelson's really good. There's so many good teams in the city, the area of Dallas. They all oftentimes can dominate the state championships. Byron Nelson, Keller, Allen, Lovejoy, Colleyville, Heritage, Frisco, Wakeland, Highland Park. One of those teams, if not a couple of those teams, are going to end up making a deep run in the playoffs and winning state. What I do love is the tournament season is over. Now it's games that are for real. These are district games, so we're heading into district. We'll see how this all kind of plays out and how people kind of position for the postseason. So volleyball is going to be very interesting in the DFW area. Okay, boom, boom, back to football. What games do we like this week? Can anyone beat DeSoto and or Duncanville?
Well, we get a good game this week. South Oak Cliff will be taking on Duncanville. This will be Duncanville's first game of the year, as they had a bye week last week. So I'm interested to see how this South Oak Cliff team bounces back. I don't necessarily think they win this game, but I think this game is they could get some points on the board this week, and they could do a lot of things up front. They've got the offensive line to compete with that Duncanville defensive line and that defensive front. Can they do things in the passing game, though? They predominantly tried to run the ball a lot last week against North Shore. They weren't able to kind of move the chains. Can they flip the script this week and see some positive things? Now, either way this score goes, I think South Oak Cliff is going to be fine, especially once they get in district play. They're going to get the ball rolling. Coach Todd does a good job. He prepares his team in this non-district schedule. They played North Shore, Duncanville, and then North Crowley as their first 3 games. These are 3 teams that were in the state Final Four, if not the state championship, with North Shore and Duncanville. I think South Oak Cliff is kind of bounce back this week, and it helps prepare them for a state championship run again. But you look at this Duncanville team, we've been kind of waiting to see them in this first game of the year. They've got Keelan Russell, Alabama commit. They've got DeCorian Moore, Oregon commit, a wide receiver. They've got Zach Turner, who's a tight end, wide receiver type of guy. He's a 4-star. They've got a ton of weapons on offense. They don't necessarily have that premier back like a Caden Durham that they had, but they've had some nice pieces move in and some pieces that have been there. I'm interested to see how this team does offensively. I think they're going to still score a lot of points. Defensively, though, you have to replace Colin Simmons and Alex January. How is that going to affect your team up front that you haven't had? You still don't have those same guys that you've had before. So how does that change things defensively? We'll find out. I still think Duncanville wins this game, but this is a big game for the city of Dallas, as these are two teams who were in the state championship games last year with Duncanville winning.
Duncanville is a freak show. DeSoto is the same. South Oak Cliff, I'm still trying to put the puzzle pieces together of why that area is so rich in talent. I have some thoughts, but we'll get to that later. Okay, is there a team that you really like that's maybe kind of out of that big three that is going to make some noise? I mean, you always have, your South Lake Carrolls and North Crowley's a team, Prosper's a team. But what are a couple of those teams that you really like that are outside of the big three?
Yeah, I think I look at this Forney team. This is a Forney team that I believe played in a regional final last year or state semifinal. I can't remember exactly which round it was, but they were a deep playoff team regardless. They've got a lot of key pieces turning back. They've got one of, if not the top running back in the state and one of the top running backs in the country on their roster. They've got Kelvion Riggins going to A&M at linebacker, 4-star. This is a loaded Jackrabbits team. They got a big win last week. This week they traveled down the A&M Consolidated, so that they'll be traveling kind of to that College Station area, probably 2-3 hour bus ride to go play a football game. I'm interested to see how they do coming off a bus. That also helps you prepare for playoff trips down the road, having to travel to other places. But Forney's a team I'm watching out for. Also, you look at this Rockwall team. Rockwall has been a team in the past that has been able to win some big games. They've had athletes go to the next level. They play Lake Travis this week. That's a big test. They play at Lake Travis too, so they're going to be hopping on the bus, heading to Austin. That's a big game. I'm interested to see how they do. As you know, Westlake came down to Prosper last week and were able to beat the Eagles. So I'm interested to see this Dallas versus Austin non-district game, see kind of what we have. What does Lake Travis have? What does Rockwall have? If Rockwall gets this win, this might be a team that we need to talk more about. I think South Lake Carroll, they took care of business last week. I think they'll take care of business again this week. That's a team who played DeSoto in the state semifinal. So I think they're primed for another run, but they lost a lot of pieces, lost their quarterback and went to Georgia Tech. So let's see what they got this year. Huge matchup.
Tell us about what happened with Denton Geyer.
Yeah, the final score of this game was 35-30. Denton Geyer was able to beat this Aledo team. When we talked to Coach Jones over at Aledo earlier in the summer, or I believe in July was when I talked to him, he said he had a couple kids who were kind of battling through injuries, guys in some key kind of positions, offensively, defensively. They opened up their season against Denton Geyer, who's been a team that has reached a state championship game in years past. They take that early loss. I think this says a lot about this Denton Geyer team. They've got a lot of young prospects, a lot of young recruiting guys who are getting a lot of offers that, obviously, as we saw on Friday night, they're able to squeak out that win and beat a tough Aledo team who went 16-0 in one state last year. So, I think Denton Geyer is another team that I would watch out for in this DFW area. I think that you look at their district as a whole, they got to play Coppell, they got to play Louisville, who have some nice pieces offensively and defensively, but I think this Denton Geyer team could be a team to beat, especially down the road in the playoffs, as they already get this early test with Aledo and come out with a win.
But Denton Geyer is a factory of players, and that's another place. Great facilities, great coaching, great infrastructure. They're a program. They're not just like a onesie, twosie, we win sometimes. This is a program, and they have staying power in, as we get into the postseason. But I'm excited to see what they do. That's a huge win for them. What does it say more about? Aledo, or does it say more about Denton
by just people guessing the game, many people might have picked the 6A team, but I would guarantee also people pick Alito because Alito is a brand, if not the brand, of Texas high school football. When you look at the amount of state championships that they've won, the amount of athletes that they've sent to the next level, the things that they've done over the past 2 decades. But I think that this says a lot about this Denton Guyer team and what they have as a whole, and what they're going to be able to do this year in district, and then also in the playoffs.
Dallas, it's so massive. It's so spread out. Houston's the same way, but it just seems like they're just chock full of super talent, and there's all across the region. There's so many really great programs, great facilities. People sleep on Dallas's facilities as it relates to indoor facilities and how big of a deal that is. They're on the cutting edge of high school sports, not just in the state, but across the country, which is really, it's proud to be a Texan to say that, because what they have done and built the infrastructure of high school football in one of the biggest metros in the country, and they do it right. All right, so we're going to catch everybody next week. Another great podcast here, another great week of football. Let's see how next week plays out. Who is the new number 1, or who is that team that is on their way to stealing the headlines in the DFW area? This is Matt Malatesta and Jackson DiPasquale in the VYPE podcast room. See you next week, and we'll see you at the game.